Professor Ashbaker, you're muted.
Thank you, Jacob. Welcome to Cooperative 2021. This is why I have smarter people than me around with technology. Welcome to the opening masterclass of Cooperative. I'm Susan Ashbaker, Director of the Cooperative Program, and it is my pleasure to be here this afternoon. I have two questions, and everybody gets to vote by raising your hand. Who is a dog person? Who is a cat person? Who is a Maria Callas person? Who is a Tebaldi person? Okay, now you can see that everybody had their opinions. Now don't answer this publicly, but who didn't know who Callas or Tebaldi were? Okay, if you don't know who Callas and Tebaldi were, you have your first Google search assignment for the program. There is no right or wrong as to whether Callas is better than Tebaldi or Tebaldi is better than Callas, because these are opinions. During their lifetimes, it was hotly debated as to who was the best. So during your studies, you're likely to receive lots of opinions. This will make you a better artist as you discover your strengths and work to bring everything to a new level. Each summer, Cooperative offers a new, unique opportunity for select young singers to raise the bar to a new level. You are the singers that were chosen. In the next 3 weeks, we will work on a multitude of skill sets that will help fill your musical toolbox. So hold on tight, because you're in for the ride of your life in the next 3 weeks. Your head will be spinning by Wednesday in the best of all possible ways. Here at Cooperative, we will help you optimize your learning to help you feel confident going forward and to give you the tools for your growth. If there's time at the end, we'll have a Q&A. So if during the class you have a burning question, please write it down and remember it. So when you're singing, what are the things that must be right? Anybody have any ideas? What must be right? Go ahead.
Notes and rhythms.
Notes and rhythms. Yes, the pitches and the rhythms have got to be spot on. What else must be right? Go ahead and unmute and answer if you think you know the answer. Pardon me?
I was going to say intonation.
Yes, that to me, that is as important as the three things that absolutely must be right are words, pitch, and rhythm. They're either wrong pitches or right words. Intonation is up there because it has to be spot on and you have to sing in tune. Very, very good. Now, it's also important that I hear some other things. I want to hear your opinion in your singing. I want to hear your artistic voice. I need it to be opera for people who are only using their eyes to watch you, as well as people who are only using their ears to listen. So you need to be able to express everything both from a musical point of view and from a physical point of view. Then there are the variables. So what might some of these variables be? Go ahead and unmute and let me have them.
I would say phrasing and musicality.
Phrasing and musicality. Excellent. What else?
Tempo to an extent.
Yep, absolutely.
Interpretation of the text.
Interpretation of the text. What else?
Language.
Pardon me?
Language.
Language. The words have to be the same, but how you express the language, absolutely. What else?
Color.
Go ahead.
Color.
Color.
Breath control.
Breath control. And where to breathe. You know, somebody might breathe here. Callas might breathe in one place, while Tebaldi breathed in the other. Ornaments are variable. Rubato is variable. Portamenti are variable. You get the idea. There are things that have to be right. And then there are things where you get to bring your own expressivity into it. So there's often not a right or wrong. There are opinions. In the next 3 weeks, you're going to get lots and lots of opinions. Some will stick with you. Some won't be right for you, but please consider them all. Make thoughtful decisions. Take risks. There is no such thing as failure here, just the opportunity to improve. You will become a better artist. You'll discover your strengths, and you'll rise to a new level. So tonight, we're going to work through what I often call my top 10 list. And interspersed with that will be the singers. The first singer will be in a few minutes, and it's going to be In Uomini. So get your stuff prepared. We're almost at you. From the top 10 list, now, most of you are too young to remember David Letterman, but he would always have a top 10 list, starting with number 10, working towards number 1. So number 10, as we're working towards number 1, is build your toolbox. At my personal home, I have a hammer, I have nails, I have picture hangers, basic screwdriver, and a really good measuring tape. I will not be building shelves or mitering. A carpenter, however, would have a workspace full of all the tools that are needed. As a singer, your musical and vocal toolbox needs to be filled, and you will need to upgrade all of your tools as you move along in your career once you get the hang of things. So what's in your toolbox? Start thinking, and for the singers, if I don't say something, put it in the chat. So in your toolbox is technique. You've got to have technique. That's a must for your entire life. Also in your toolbox are languages. You need to translate word for word in your own words. Using an online book or resource to contextualize is fine after you've done the hard work of translating every single word. And as I mentioned earlier in our welcome meeting, I shared a translation template in the handouts file. It's a tool for you for life. Work for idiomatic expression. Deborah, Ennio, Ulrika, and Letizia are here to help you with this in detail in the next 3 weeks. All the coaches and stage directors are here to help you with your languages as well. Also in your toolbox, dramatic work. Analyze your character. Analyze the libretto. Analyze the scene. If I've lost you on those 3, that's something that you're going to have to start Googling and ask Dan and Ellen immediately. They will be giving you handouts that will help you find success in your research. And Dan and Ellen, the stage directors, drama coaches, will help you focus on this very important aspect in the next 3 weeks. To contextualize it, when you tell your friends a story, you don't stand like this and tell the story without a point of view. You always have an experience. Guess what I did this weekend? Well, we know it was something exciting. Or if you said, oh, guess what I did this weekend? We know you didn't have a great weekend. The same thing happens with song and arias and scenes. Also in this toolbox is legato. My teacher, John Wussman, used to say, legato is a way of life. And he's absolutely right. It comes from the Italian word legare, which means to tie or bind or connect. So in singing, we're tying together or binding together sound. Sound is words, vowels, consonants, all of it. It's all part of this legare, this legato. And it's a must for lyric singing in opera and art song. If you listen to pop music, they usually sing legato too. We speak legato on a regular basis. So let what we already know and already do help inform our singing. Also in our toolbox needs to be an incredibly large amount of practice tools. And this is one of my big things. You need to learn how to practice. A lot of times you're told, oh, that needs a little bit more practice. Or you think, oh, I need to go practice, but you don't have anything specific in mind. In all of my coachings, you'll walk away with a multitude of practice tools. In the masterclass tonight, as I'm working, this afternoon, as I'm working with people, I will give them practice tools. This does not mean that it's a practice tool only for that aria. It means that you have to take that tool and use it in your own repertoire. And it's really important to focus on one thing at a time. Too often we juggle too many balls and they all drop. So in practice, focus on one thing at a time. Also in your toolbox are things like printed materials. And we could do an entire 8-hour session on printed materials, but we're not going to do that today. During the program, you'll learn some of the best practices about your printed materials, be it a resume, a bio, or repertoire sheet. And another thing that really has become more important in the toolbox in the last couple of years, before COVID, but definitely during COVID, is pre-screening tools. So this has always been a part of young artist vetting, but this year it completely replaced in-person auditions. While there will be live auditions in the future, the pre-screening video is here to stay and the stakes are higher. That's an important tool and sometimes a new tool for all singers. And you're going to feel like a pro when you're finished with cooperative because each of you will sing a song and an aria and ensemble in the recitals that require the same skill sets as putting together your pre-screening videos for graduate school or for young artists programs. So Madison Hamill is up first with Una Donna. So Madison, are you ready?
I am, yes.
Excellent.
Una donna 15 anni di sapere ogni gran moda dove diavolo all'ancora tu vuoi bere il mal così di saper maliziette che innamorano gli amanti. Finger risa, finger pianta, inventare bei perché. Finger risa, finger pianta, inventare bei perché. Diamo un momento, dare t'accento, con le pupille parlar con mille. Dai seme a tutti, se meglio brutti, saper nascondersi senza confondersi, senza arrossire, saper mentire, saper mentire. E corrigina dall'alto soglio, colpo sue voglio farsi ubbidir. E corrigina colpo sue voglio farsi ubbidir. Porca di angusto, di la dottrina, viva de spina, che sa servir, che sa servir. Diamo un momento, dare t'accento, con le pupille parlar con mille. Dar seme a tutti, se meglio bruti, saper nascondersi senza confondersi, senza arrossire, saper mentire, saper mentire. E corrigina dall'alto soglio, corpo sue voglio
you feel about that? I always like to ask singers because singers tend to be really good judges of how they did. And if 1 is the worst you've ever sung it and 10 is the best you've ever sung it, where were you this afternoon?
I think, I was maybe a 6 or a 7. There were,
Okay.
yeah.
Very good. Very good. One of the things that I appreciated so much is that you told a story. You were clearly in Despina land. And when I was talking about the toolbox, saying we've got to hear it in your voice and see it in your person, you brought both of those things to the table. So that was terrific. There are a couple of things in this. I would encourage you to look at the score again and go, okay, this is forte. Okay, this is piano. Now, the truth be told, on Zoom, it works really hard to equal my listening experience. So your dynamics might be perfect, but they also might not be. I don't know. But some of them were too much the same. For example, at the very end, I would love to hear a diminuendo throughout the end after Viva Despina que sa servir, Viva Despina que sa servir, que sa servir, que sa servir. Like it's a secret or something excellent. But by doing the same dynamic, our ear gets accustomed to that, and suddenly there's no difference in what's important and what's not important. So I would be careful with that. When you also get to fingerizo, that needs to be a little bit more of a decrescendo. I'm hearing fingerizo. And if I were singing something by a later composer, I would be like, yes. But in this, it needs a little bit more of an elegance. It's not uncommon in anything Mozart, when it goes from a lower note to a higher note, to have a decrescendo. Susanna does it. Despina does it. A lot of the repertoire has that built in. And when it's not built in, it's clear with a dynamic marking or a crescendo or something like that. So be very careful on that. Can you sing for me a cappella, fingerizo, except in your octave? Yeah, even more. More on the fingeri and then decrescendo as you go up. Good. Okay. Now, I'm hearing a little bit of a difference, but not a lot. And again, that could be Zoom. So you have to be very truthful with yourself so that you know. And if you're not sure, record it and then play it. Be sure that the word finger is a little E in IPA, not fi. Finger. That's a common mistake for all non-Italian singers, is that they turn the E sound into an I, especially when it's, if we look at it, we go, aha, it's finger, but be careful. In Italian, there are only 5 vowels and 7 sounds. A is A. The E vowel is either closed, and I always exaggerate so it's really clear, closed E, or open E. The I vowel is always E, which is the little I. O is always open or closed. O, like O, or open is O. And U is always U. 7 sounds only. 5 vowels, 7 sounds, no more. So it's super important to remember that, because our English-speaking brains oftentimes slip that I sound in there. The other thing, in the word, when you say saper mentire, it's just a flip. If you can roll R's, we love to do it. But we can't do it when it's not at the end of a word or with a consonant. So in mentire, it's got to be just a flip.
Right.
And you enjoyed the roll just a little bit too much. Okay. So, another thing to be really careful of, every once in a while, you throw in an accidental that's not really there. For example, on measure 82, no, that's not it. On the word senza, measure 63, fondersi senza. It's a C natural, and you're singing senza. Okay, so one of the exercises that I think you all need to do on a regular basis, and I actually have 5. I don't know if we'll get to all 5 of them in this class, but every single day after you've warmed up, it's super important before you jump into repertoire to do these 5 exercises because they're musical exercises. And in these musical exercises, you choose a vowel and you choose a note. So for you, Madison, let's choose the D on the which is the D of the word sen in senza. And on the exercise half step, whole step, you choose a vowel. Every day it's a different note and a different vowel. So what vowel do you want today?
Maybe an ooh.
Ooh, okay. So you're going to sing the D and go up a half step to a D sharp, and then you're going to do it in the rhythm. Do you have a piano around you?
I do not.
Okay, hold on. Now you do that same thing on an ooh. Ready? Good. Did they all feel the same to you, or did they each feel different?
They each definitely felt different. Yes.
Yeah. So half steps and whole steps are different all throughout the range in everybody. And so with this exercise, after 6 months of being very careful like this, because it's all about perfect intonation and knowing the exact distance between the half step and the whole step, both up and down on a variety of notes. And so after you get used to it, you can shake it up a bit with ooh, 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 and shake the rhythms up a little bit. But in the beginning, for the first 6 months, really just focus on that. And I want everybody to do a favor for me and close your eyes. We're going to do an exercise together. Do not look, but touch your nose with your finger. Touch your ear with your finger. Now touch your nose again. Okay, open your eyes. How in the world did you all do that? You didn't have your eyes open. How did you know how to do that? Well, you've been doing it since you were a little kid. And I got to tell you, when you were little, the adults in your life would be like, where's your nose? And if your if your hand got anywhere near your face, they were thrilled. And eventually you got to the point, because it's the same on your face as it was back then, and you're just much more coordinated now. It's part of who you are and what you know. The same is true for these half steps and whole steps in your voice. The difference is that as you age, sometimes things change a little bit. And we know that because we are no longer 2 feet 3 inches tall, and we can say full sentences and do all these things that show that we're more grown up. So practice that exercise every single day so that you really know, and then you can go senza with a C natural and not have the C sharp that you did. Another quick thing is on farsi ubidir. So this is tricky. Say for me, farsi ubidir.
Farsi ubidir.
Good. Say it again.
Farsi ubidir.
Say it like you're happy.
Sorry?
Say it like you're happy.
Farsi ubidir.
You're angry.
Farsi ubidir.
You're sad.
Farsi ubidir.
Excellent. So giving attitudes to words helps you say the words in a better way than just saying farsi ubidir. Because when we say the words with no emotion behind it, we tend to be adequate only. But when you suddenly had attitude, you were wonderful. And what I want you to do now is on one note, it doesn't matter what the note is, I want you to sing it like you're super happy.
Yeah. Farsi ubidir.
You're confused.
Farsi ubidir.
You're tired.
Farsi ubidir.
You're ecstatic.
Farsi ubidir.
Good. Each time your language was very good. When you sang it in context, your Italian was very English speaking because you went farsiu, farsiu, bidir, farsiu, farsiu, and instead of farsiu. And when you think about the text first, practice the text, one word. If it's a bunch of little words, practice 2 or 3 syllables, but do the words first. Get used to saying it, then singing it on one note with attitudes, because you'll always do better. And then go back to the thing and go farsiu, because it's not farsiu, which is what you made it into, which then changes what Mozart's intent was. And Mozart is really brilliant, and I don't find the need to change what Mozart did. Other people may feel differently, but in that instance, make sure that it sounds like the real word that it is. And then the other thing before we wind up, be sure that you know how long the notes are. Okay, this goes back to what can be right and what can be wrong. The things that are absolutely right: words, text, rhythms, and notes. Sometimes you're more generous than Mozart asks for. So if you have a quarter note, sometimes you do a dotted quarter note, and that's not necessary. Okay, so go back and look at this. In fact, one of the things that I think is a really good exercise is to spend time with just the text. Una donna 15 anni. Just that much. Saying it, singing it on one note. Una donna 15 anni. And also going, lu, 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 off. So that you can really focus on one thing, and that will help you when it comes to phrase endings and knowing exactly how much you need to give us. Okay? Super. Thank you. Everybody applaud for Maddie.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay. So back to the top 10 list. Number 9, leave your insecurities behind. If you have absolutely no insecurities, please raise your hand. Okay. We all have insecurities. At least most of us do. At Cooperative, we're here to help. We want you to sing well. And you know what? The people that are listening to you sing want you to sing well too. We can't wait to hear what you have to offer. Okay? Insecurities will hold you back if you let them. Choose the opposite. My mom used to say, put a smile on your face, it will catch up with you. And doggone it, she was right. When I was a teenager, I'd roll my eyes, but she was right. Another phrase that you'll hear people say is fake it till you make it. And in being a musician or an opera singer or a vocal artist, being an artist is pretending to put the mantle on of many different people, from characters of today, characters from the 1800s, characters that are nice, characters that are naughty, characters that are nasty. So we all love to play act a little bit, or we wouldn't be in this kind of business. So use that technique to help build your best self. Okay? So if you are insecure about something, put it out there that today I'm feeling confident about my intonation. Today I'm feeling confident about my language. If you were courageous, what would that look like? If you were confident, what would that look like? If you were expressive, what would that look like? So we all have things to work on. Every single person in the world, even singers who have been doing this for years and years and years, we all have something to work on. This is a lifelong process. So dare to be daring, dare to be yourself, and dare to be your very best self, the self that you see when you see where you're going. Number 8, take care of yourself. Now, people always say, oh, take care. But when I say it, I don't mean it as a platitude. I'm very serious. As a musician, as a singer, you are a vocal athlete. We're hearing about people training for the Olympics. You are always going to be training for the vocal Olympics, because that's what singing an opera is about. That's what singing a recital is about. So your physical well-being is your responsibility. You need to sleep, you need to hydrate, you need to eat well, you need to exercise. You need to know what you need. What you need may be different than what your best friend needs. So don't feel like you have to copy somebody else's routine. Find out what's good for you. Your emotional well-being is also your responsibility, and you need to know what it is that you need for that. And everybody is different. Are you somebody who needs to spend time with family and friends each day or each week? Or do you need more alone time? Do you find that yoga is an important part of your day? Do you have access to a therapist that you see regularly? Whatever you need to make sure you have access to. It's interesting because my daughter says she's an introvert who has learned how to extrovert. And if you met her, you'd think she was an extrovert. I'm an extrovert who has learned to introvert during COVID, because we're all in a very insular bubble. And I think, certainly for me, it was a good experience for me to figure out what it was like to not have access to all of my people and all of my normal things, even though I prefer it a different way. So during the pandemic, it's been easy to lose balance. So make sure that you're particularly attentive to what you need, and let this also be a lifelong practice. You are the only one who really is there to take care of you. And if you're on the road for something and you don't have your normal situation here, you've got to figure out how to make that happen. Now, I have an exercise we're going to all do. We're not going to do it for the full minute, but when I get stressed or when I get anxious or nervous, sometimes I just have to slow down my brain. And I do that by doing what I consider my 1 minute miracle. And it's deep breathing for 1 minute. And I will set the alarm on my phone, the timer for 1 minute. And you think, oh, what can you accomplish in 1 minute? But you know what? You can accomplish a lot in 1 minute. And what I do is I breathe in for 2 beats through my nose. And then I breathe out for 4 beats through my mouth. In, 2, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, out, 2, 3, 4. Again, out. Okay, I'm cutting you off like a choir or an ensemble. Even though I only did a couple of breaths, it slowed my whole tempo down in my body, and it made me much more relaxed. And that was only a few seconds. So you can imagine how great this is for 1 full minute. Now, you may have a different breathing rhythm. That's one that works for me. Sometimes I do it really slow, and sometimes I do it at the tempo I did. What's most important is that you just stop and breathe. Sometimes people like to listen to podcasts or music. A little bit of nerves is good for your adrenaline before a performance and can add positive energy to your singing, so don't forget about that positive aspect. But if you have other calming routines, go ahead and put them in the chat feature so that everybody can benefit from them. Somebody wrote in, I do breathing in for 4, suspend for 7, release for 8. It relieves anxiety and nerves, plus it's quick. Excellent. I love that. Somebody who knows what it is that they need. So be one of these people that know what it is you need. Number 7, speaking of what you need to know what you are shopping for. What do you need? What makes you unique? And what is the school or company that you're interested in shopping for too? Now, if I were going to have a dinner party, I would not go to Tiffany's to shop for groceries, nor would I go to Lowe's. I would go to a grocery store or a farmer's market. So I need to know where to go to get what I need. You have to ask yourself, what do I need as a singer? What do you need in a teacher? Are you someone who needs to stock your entire house and go for a vocal makeover? Or do you just need some continued work in a particular aspect? Or is there something that still eludes you? You need to be specific about what you need and want. If you're graduating and need help choosing your next teacher at your new school, enlist your current teacher to help you identify what it is that you need. I had the pleasure of talking with each of your teachers in March. I loved that, and I'm going to do that every single year because it gave me a sense of where they were working towards with you. And our team has benefit of some of those directions by the repertoire we chose, by the things that we made sure were in the program. Make sure your teacher helps you identify what it is you need. And the same thing with a coach. Do you need an experienced coach to help you with a role? If I were learning a role, I'd want an experienced coach. Or do you need a younger coach or repetiteur to help you with the basics? If you needed to get the notes in your head, you go to a repetiteur or a younger coach. What is it you need help with? You need to know. If you're unsure of what you need, I would go to an experienced coach to start with and help you focus in the right direction. Okay? When I work with young singers, there are 2 ways of working. One, I make you do all the work. You explore. I ask you questions. I head you towards the right answers. And that makes you a better artist. But if you come to me and say, oh my gosh, I have to learn this entire role in 1 week, I'm going to spoon feed you everything I know because you don't have the luxury of time. I'm going to tell you all the things. And when I rehearse the operas at Westminster Choir College, if I'm the conductor, then I know what I'm preparing from the beginning. But I also bring in conductors because that's an important skill to learn, how to be prepared by someone who's not going to conduct you, for the conductor to come in which case I will say, this is the variety of tempi that I've experienced. Some may conduct it in 2, some may conduct it in 4. But if you're with somebody who's experienced, they will have the breadth of repertoire. But if you need someone to help you get some of that foundational information, the right notes, the right words, the right rhythms, a younger coach can help you. Make sure you ask them if they're comfortable in the language. Most of us do not reach 21 and be a polyglot like Nico was. It takes us some time to get the languages, in our ear and in our everyday usage. Also, when looking for something, what are you shopping for? Make sure that your expectations are right sized. You would not want to serve chicken to someone who's vegan. You need to know what the expectations are of the companies or schools that you're looking at. And that means doing your homework. It means starting months in advance. It actually means starting now. Are you shopping for a graduate school? Are you finished with school and in a graduate program? Are you shopping for a young artist program or a summer program? Are you shopping for a competition? All of you got to cooperative in some way or fashion. So what were you thinking of when you were shopping for cooperative? You can find this information out in Yap Tracker, Classical Singer, Opera News, Opera America, and most importantly, your people. Find out what programs have worked for them. Find out what schools worked for them. Sometimes you're going to be looking for pay to sing programs. You get to sing a role, but you have to pay for it. Choose these very wisely. Make sure they're roles that you really need to learn or people you really want to learn from. For graduate school, it's just like undergraduate school. Stretch school, safety school, and a bunch in the middle. Okay, everybody wants to go to Curtis or Juilliard. And so they've got thousands of people applying. They are tuition free. And the accept rate at Curtis at one point, I had that statistic. It was easier to get into the Secret Service than it was to get into Curtis Institute of Music. So anyway, figure out what is, do you want urban, do you want rural, do you want boutique school, or do you want humongous school? You have to know what it is that you're looking for. It's about doing your research. And what are you shopping for when it comes to recorded auditions and online recitals? You're going to receive fabulous and detailed instruction from our faculty, all of whom have significant experience in the recording of tracks for singers for practice as well as auditions and performances. And as I have mentioned to anyone who asks me, an audio recording does not hold up against an audio video. In an audio video, you see the pianist breathe. An experienced pianist will nod to you or let you know when to come in, and especially if there's a cadenza, and if it's an audio only, you're just praying portamento down and they play the chord at the right time. And that's not to be disrespectful to the amazing pianists who have made a lot of recordings that are just audio. But as we know more about this process, I would ask for a video always. And what leads to a successful video recording? Well, it starts by sending your pianist well-marked music. This way they can lay the track down for your specifications. If you remember my email from March, that requested your well-marked music in April so we could record your accompaniments in May so that you could practice them in June. That helps lead to a successful recording. You're going to learn a lot of tips from our team in the next 3 weeks about lighting, camera angles, syncing, etc. You'll also learn a lot about microphones, headphones, and other technology. We are starting to get back to live performance, but the skills that we've learned this year and the equipment that you've purchased or I've purchased will be with us going forward. So continue your learning. Michael, are you ready with Dala Su Apache?
Yes, I am.
Excellent.
My chair fell over. Sorry about that. Dalla sua pace la mia dipende quel che a lei piace vita mi rende quel che a lei cresce morte mi dà morte mi dà se non sospiro sospiro anch'io e mia quell'ira quel pianto è mio e non ho bene se non ho bene se non ho bene se non dalla sua pace la mia dipende quel che a lei piace vita mi rende quel che a lei cresce morte mi dà morte mi dà dalla sua pace la mia dipende quel che a lei piace vita mi rende quel che a lei cresce morte mi dà morte mi dà. quel che allein cresce, buona te mi dà.
Terrific. I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked Maddie. What number do you give yourself? 1 being the worst and 10 being the best.
I think I would probably also give it a 6 or 7.
Okay. I hear myself coming back as an echo in your recording or in your device.
I'll see if I can fix that.
Nick or James, do you have any suggestions? I think that's better. You know, I still hear it, but I hear it less.
You both have original sound on?
Pardon me?
Original sound?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I have to say, I'm so grateful for all the people who know more than me technologically. I can tell when there's a problem. I just can't always solve it. So, in this particular aria, the first thing I'm going to talk about is another one of the 5 exercises, because this aria exemplifies this all over the place. And so the first one we know is the half step, whole step. The other one is an arpeggio exercise. So your note for the day is a G, okay? And what vowel do you want?
Probably an E.
Okay. And do you have a piano?
It's all the way over there.
Okay, I will give you the whole point is that you sing on your vowel in root position 1 3 5 3 1 and then 1 3 5 8, and then you start improvising on those 3 notes. I'm going to show you on the piano. So I took any G, any B, and any D from your range, and I wiggled around on them. So now it's your turn on the E vowel, starting in the root position.
Then add the A on top.
And then add the octave. Now improvise. Good. Now try doing that for 30 seconds. All of you need to do that. These 5 exercises should take you 5 minutes to 10 minutes. So it can be 30 seconds to 60 seconds. The improvising is hard because we're never taught to improvise. We're just taught to sing what we see on the page. And so when it comes time to the improvising this, we're all a little bit nervous. But how many arpeggios actually start on 1 and are 1 3 5 3 1? This one is 5 3 1, and then it shifts to a C major chord, 3 1 1 5, if you're looking at it as a C major chord. And so right away, your first 2.5 measures are 2 different arpeggios. And late breaking news, arpeggios are in everything, okay? So if you use arpeggios as a daily exercise, you look at something and go, I've got this. When you get to the quel que ale, that's a D7 with a 5. Or a D major with a 7th, rather. And what happens is in the beginning, you do major and you do minor. And you do that for about 3 months, 30 seconds each. After 3 months, you start adding the 7ths. Okay? And there are 2 7ths, the raised and the lowered. And so you need to know which one you're using and use both of them. Because here in quel che le piace, you're starting on the 7th. Okay? And if you know that and you can look at this and go 7, 5, 3, 1, it helps with the intonation. I think analyzing your music is super important. And before all of my theory colleagues and friends go, yes, I usually don't mean it the way they mean it. There's a special skill for that. But I look at it and think, how can knowing the harmonic structure help us with what we're doing? Okay, we've got a G major arpeggio chord. Then we've got a C major. And then we've got one with the 7th. It will help us sing in tune. It will help us figure out how to move things through. So that's a big exercise to add every single day. It's a shame that all people don't have such easy access to their high notes like you do. You just go to that G like it's another day. And it makes me feel very comfortable when I hear you because the G is just there. It's reliable. And that's both a gift and a special skill. Okay? Because those don't come free. You've worked hard. But boy, it put me at ease right away. And one of your best measures was the 4th measure you sang. Pande. You did those 30-second notes so beautifully, and it was shaped so beautifully that I want you to look at that the opening phrase and that particular measure and go, what is it I'm doing there that makes it so good? And then look at all the other measures and make it, that's your high bar. You set the bar high for yourself in the beginning with easy G, great measure 4, and good intonation. So how can you make sure everything else matches? A couple of things you're adding, and I don't know which score you sing from. Which edition do you use?
Shoot. This is Lendig.
Okay, because you consistently go quel que alein, and I'm using a Baron writer, which for Mozart trumps all the other scores. Just saying. You may get people who disagree with me, but Baron writer is the Urtext. It is the most critical edition for Mozart. And I have quel que le incresce. Quel que le incre. So I need you to get a copy of the Baron writer and change that or look at that or make the choice. I mean, make the choice for what you're going to do. One of the things that I have singers do all the time is listen to recordings. And sometimes singers go, oh, I don't listen to recordings. I don't want to be informed by someone else's choice. Well, you know what? If you listen to one recording only, that's not a good idea. But I have my singers that I work with listen to 10. And if they don't listen to 10, I don't ever want to know. But if you listen to 10 recordings, you really become an expert on that aria. And I encourage them. In fact, I have by my table, I didn't bring this as a prop, but these are colored pencils. There are 12. I only need 10 because I listen and I get a photocopy of my music. It's going to be a study score. And I write with blue, singer name, conductor name, orchestra name, year. And then I go through and I try to find the right tempo. I try to tap it into my metronome. I look for dynamics. I look for breath. Sometimes I listen 2 or 3 times until everything is clear for me with the blue. Then I get yellow, and I listen to a second recording and I write in yellow, singer, conductor, orchestra, year. And then I do the same thing with that. 10 singers later, my score is incredibly colorful. But I really know and can say with confidence, 8 of the 10 singers breathe here. Or, nobody breathes there. I want to. My coaches want me to. My teacher wants me to. I don't want to. But wow, 10 people, nobody breathes there. I may need to rethink. Or you become super famous and then you make the one recording with the breath that's there. But this is an instance where you need to find out how many people say quel che le incre and who sings quel che ale incre. Okay. Also, you have what I call an American T in morte, te. Ennio will work with you on that. But if you're exploding any consonant, it's not Italian. They do not explode like we do. And I will share with you a phrase that really shows the difference between Italian and English. English is consonant-based. Italian is vowel-based. If I did not want you to bother me, and I really wanted you to know it, in English I would say, "Don't bother me." And you would go, "Whoa, she's really upset," because of my b and d. If I were Italian, speaking English, I would say, "Don't bother me." And it would be all about my vowel. Okay? So when we sing Italian, we've got to take off our English hat and put the Italian hat on and say morte, 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 morte. You can try saying it with a D, although that is not going to be good either. But to get away from the morte, 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 morte. It's a different place in your mouth, and Deborah will work wonders with you on that in your language coachings and your diction classes, and Ennio as well. But just be aware that today on the 4th of July, it's okay to fly your American flag, but every other day, you got to get rid of the American flag on that T, okay? Also, the E in cella is open, and you're going cella in every single one. Sospiro anch'io. Be really careful. That uses some help from the F, E, E flat is the half step exercise, and then half step, whole step exercise. And then the E flat to the C is somewhere in one of those arpeggios. Okay? For my taste, you could add a little bit more M on mia. Mi. The same thing with, where does it happen again? I can't remember, but there's a big old word called raddoppiamento, which is Italian for phrasal doubling, that after monosyllabic words and certain polysyllabic words like così or perché, you can choose to double the next consonant if it makes sense. So the word addio started out as the word a, to, and Dio, God. It became then addio, where it's a double D. So that's just something to consider. You have to be very careful also because you give me too much N in bene. It's just one little N. Loved your measure 28 to 29, the crescendo on the G on the word la, and then without a breath, you did a beautiful F sharp piano. That was good. And then you gave me a double N on bene again. So this is what I mean by setting the bar high in the beginning, and you got to make sure that all the other things come up to that level. I want to also talk in the last few minutes about the appoggiaturas. What does, instead of asking, the word appoggiatura comes from the verb appoggiare. Do you know what? And I rolled the R and I'm not supposed to. Appoggiare. What does the word appoggiare mean? Anybody know?
To lean.
To lean, absolutely. Appoggiare. And in music, we're leaning on the note. So when you've got the appoggiatura on measure 32, se, la, non, la, I need you to lean on it like an appoggiatura rather than singing it like a passing tone. Do you hear the difference? Se, la, non, la. It may be fine, but it's not doing anything. With the appoggiatura, se, la, non, la. Can you sing that in your beautiful voice rather than my coachy voice?
Se, la, non, la.
That's the right idea. That's the right idea. You need to know, going back to theory, is this a passing note or is it an appoggiatura? If it's an appoggiatura, you need to make a little bit more emphasis on it in a musical way. Very, very nice job. The only other thing, I need you to count your inner rhythm on mo, re, mi, da. Every single one you speed up. So when you get to the que, cresce, mo, re, mi, da. This is why percussionists are so good. They start out learning 16th notes. Everybody else starts out learning whole notes, unless you're a Suzuki kid, and then you've usually got good rhythm because you go Mississippi hot dog, and you understand how many 16ths are in one whole note or one quarter note, and how many quarters are in a whole note. So that's your work for the week. Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Okay. Going back to number 6 in the toolbox. Start building your network now. Robert Fulghum, what was the book called? Everything I Needed to Learn. All I Really Needed to Learn, I learned in kindergarten. He was right. Play well in the sandbox. Be kind to others. Hold hands when necessary. Put your best foot forward. Be open to learning. Be open to relearning, and love what you do. Everything you do in rehearsal is seen and remembered by other people in the rehearsal. From how you enter a room, you arrive 10 minutes beforehand, so you're on time, or you breeze in quickly at the moment and you're snapping at everybody. You set the tone for how people see you. What you say and how prepared you are. People remember that. Look around at all the boxes on this Zoom call. This is part of your network. Add these people to those from your home, from your schools. Add the cooperative participants and faculty to your network of people you know. Because somebody's going to say, oh, we just lost our Ottavio. Do you know anybody who can sing it? Well, actually, I do. And it's based on the singing that you do, but it's also based on a lot of other things. So what kind of person do you want to be looked at as? Or who do you want to be? I suggest that you be the person who is supportive of others at all times. If you don't like their rendition of something, find something you do like. We can all find something that we like. My mom, again, don't say anything. If you don't have anything to say, anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. My mom was a very smart woman. So I may not have liked something that you did, but I can find something that I truly did like. And focus on that. Wow, your high notes are just so good. Or, Wow, you were very expressive with the poetry. Make it a genuine compliment, because everybody does something that's good. Be the person that recognizes that. Be a generous colleague. Be open to what you're being told in rehearsals, lessons, and coaching. The most exciting thing as a coach is when somebody comes in and it's like, let's work and we can tweak. And the two amazing singers that we've already heard so far came open, and they worked hard and they sang beautifully. And that's exciting for me as a coach, whether it's in a public venue like this in a master class or whether it's in person. Be on time. We all know that. When I lived in Germany, actually, if you were late for a stage rehearsal, you had to pay for the increment of time you were late. Subsequently, people weren't late. Be helpful. If somebody gets in there because they're a little bit late, they've arrived and it's 1 minute till and their water bottle's empty, and you know that the beginning of the scene doesn't call for you. Once the rehearsal starts and it's clear you're not needed, but you've been counted present, go to that person and say, you want me to fill up your water bottle for you? That's a kind, helpful thing. It doesn't cost anything extra to be kind and helpful. When someone calls someone in your network, and believe me, they will and they do frequently, let it be easy for them to sing your praises. This year, I have been struck by the generosity of so many artists who stepped up with online performances, often from their homes, in a Facebook or YouTube platform, and streamed something. You know, this is generous. And, you know, the list goes on as to how many people have done this, whether it's a whole opera from Joyce DiDonato's apartment. I think it was hers, or it could have been Jorge's apartment. I can't remember which one it was from, but or Howard. Anyway, to singers doing recitals, to Karen Slack doing Kiki Conversations, where she interviews people and people just come and talk about it. And it's a masterclass each and every time for young singers. It's because of their generosity of spirit. And we are lucky to have so many amazing people in opera and in our lives. There are still lots of free streams happening. The ones that charge money charge so little. So I personally am grateful for the generosity of so many people. In fact, somebody put a speaker out on their porch and sang to their neighbors. They had accompaniments coming through, and she sang on her porch, and her neighbors got a free concert. This is a Met singer. So be that kind of singer. Number 5, ask questions. Be curious. This is huge. Read. Who has read a book about opera in the last month, or a book that relates to one of the operas or arias you're working on? Raise your hand. Okay, don't see all the hands raised. That's important to do. You need to read your libretto, of course, but you need to also go back to the original source from which the libretto is written. So, if you're singing the Countess from Nozze, you first need to read the libretto. But then you need to look at what the libretto came from, and it comes from a work that's called the Beaumarchais Trilogy, 3 different stories. Why do you need to read all 3 of them? You're only in Nozze. Well, Nozze's the middle one. And when I say to somebody, how old are you as the Countess? Oh, I'm 25. It's like, okay, you haven't done your research. Because in the Beaumarchais, you're 15 in the first one, the Barber of Seville. And Nozze is 5 years later, so you're 20. Okay? Number 2, you have to read The Guilty Mother. That's harder because it's not easy to find, but you have to read it. because then your scene with Cherubino in Act 2 can be a little steamier than you think it ought to be. Because the Countess has a child, but not with the Count, with Cherubino, who then is killed in battle. So these are all super important things that will inform who you are as the Countess. Read books about or from the time period of the opera. Let your curiosity help you choose what to read. So if you're working on Britten's amazing piece, The Turn of the Screw, read the original novella by Henry James. Decide, is this evil or confusion or insanity? Then read some more. Read some ghost stories. Read about ghost stories. Read Gothic fiction. There are some amazing illustrations that you can find online from a weekly magazine that serialized the original story of The Turn of the Screw in 12 installments in 1898. How do I know that? A Google search. I was digging and I digged and I digged and I digged and I digged. I dug really, really deep. I found that. Also, there are other adaptations of the story, plays, ballets, film. So it's important to read. You need to see. You need to use your eyes to look at art, architecture, ballet, and books about art. Who has been to an art museum in the past year or spent time looking at art online? Raise your hand. A few more people. Okay. So many of the world's most important museums opened their virtual doors for free during the pandemic. I hope you've taken advantage of this. What you see will inform you of artistic practice and choice during each time period. If you're working on Tom Rakewell's aria or Anne Trulove's aria, look up the Hogarth prints that inspired everything, the Rake's Progress. You'll learn a lot. Look up dress and attire in the years before the French Revolution to see what people wore, how they wore their hair, how many corsets they had to wear. Watch movies set in period locations and costume. That is so key. There's so many of them too. So we read, we look, and we hear. There's so much streamed content, as I have mentioned before. And now that things are starting to open up, let's add live performances, road trips for live performances back into what we do. I can remember piling into a van in grad school, and we would drive up to the Chicago Lyric and get the cheap student tickets, and we would talk about it all the way back. It was amazing. So when you listen to live or streamed content, don't just go in there and go, okay, I'm going to be entertained. Sometimes it's important to figure out what you're going to listen for, because listening critically, and I don't mean listening critically, but listening to be able to start talking about observations is a skill that has to be developed. So why were these singers hired? What is it that they bring uniquely to that role? What is it that they're doing that inspires other people, either on stage or in the audience? How do they tell the story with their sound? How do they tell the story with their gesture? And if the singer's voice is not to your taste, why do so many people like them and hire them? Observation takes much more experience and knowledge than opinion. Everyone has an opinion. And in one of the classes that I teach, I state from the beginning, I don't want to hear any of your opinions. I want to hear all of your observations, because that's exciting. When you listen to people online, don't always select people from 2015 on. How many people have listened to somebody from the 1970s or later recently? 1950s or later? 1930s or later? It's out there on YouTube. It's amazing. I was working on something with someone and we found a recording from the 1930s on YouTube. Wow, it's gold. So now is the opportunity to take the time to do this. When it's late at night and you're too tired to do any singing or translating, just do some Google searches, see where it takes you. It's amazing how many full operas are on YouTube. And I know a lot of you will likely have Spotify accounts. There's so many recordings that are out there. One of the things that you need to start thinking about is not only inherited repertoire, but new works. Who has seen an opera this year that was written in the last 5 years? Raise your hand. Okay. In the last 3 years, raise your hand. Okay. So almost every company is including new American repertoire each year in their season. So if you are one of the people that raised your hand, write down the name of the opera that you saw in the chat function on Zoom so that your colleagues can look at the names, because there are so many, whether you go back to 2015 for Cold Mountain or Breaking the Waves or JFK or Charlie Parker's Yardbird or Fellow Travelers. We Shall Not Be Moved was Opera Philadelphia. Elizabeth Cree, also Opera Philadelphia. An American Soldier, Sky on Swings. The Pulitzer Prize was won 2 years ago by Anthony Davis for the Central Park Five. The Silent Night was a Pulitzer winner also, Kevin Putz. Stonewall, Dennis and Katya. There are so many amazing things. And at Westminster, we did a world premiere of Marie Begins, the first interactive choose your own adventure opera. So this is your world. You need to be aware of and know about the repertoire. Google is your friend. YouTube is your friend. Plan time every day for a little Google search or some YouTube curiosity. It's amazing. Number 4, keep your ears open. What is being said to you? What is not being said to you? Sometimes that's as important as what is said to you. You need to be able to hear both. Listen carefully. You may think, how in the world can I remember all that is told to me? Or how well I sang? Well, I have an answer. You keep a diary. And it may be 2 or 3 diaries. If you audition a lot, you keep an audition journal. If you don't audition a lot yet, you keep a performance journal. And so either one, and if you perform and audition a lot, you can do the same. But, how well did you sleep? What did you eat the night before or for breakfast that morning? How was transportation? Was it easy? Was it difficult? Did you park with ease, or did you have to drive around a million blocks in New York City before you found free parking? Did you rent a warm-up room? How much did it cost? Did you bring your own pianist? How much did it cost? If you didn't, was their pianist good? Did you get the person's name? Were there warm-up rooms? Was there a good waiting area? What was the temperature like? Was it freezing? Were there enough chairs? You get my point. You write down everything. How big was the audition space? Were you in a little studio that was 10 by 12, or were you in a classroom, or were you in a hall? An example is at the Metropolitan Opera, List Hall has a stage at the bottom of a bunch of steps. The steps are not always intuitive. And so I was advised years ago always to hold on to the railing because the steps are not always even and intuitive. That's okay. You don't want to fall, but you need to know that, so you put your stuff in your left hand and have your right hand ready for the railing. Notice about the piano. Was it an upright or was it a grand? Was it in tune? Was it not in tune? All of these things make a difference. For whom did you sing? Who was in the room? Did they take notes on the computer? Were they attentive? Did they talk a lot? How much time did they allot you, and how much time did you actually get? What was your starter piece? You can do the same thing for online. You need to keep track of everything you do. If you're not in the audition circle and you don't do a lot of performance, now that there are opportunities opening up, grab a group of friends and get together a 45-minute to an hour program, even 30 minutes, and go to a retirement community or a nursing home or a church or synagogue or an after-school program. Let your own creativity be your guide so you get performance opportunities. This is so crucial. And then the other book that I think every singer needs to have is what I call a yes book. And Lizzie, we're going to start with you as soon as I finish this, so get on deck. Every singer needs a yes book. What's in your yes book? Everything wonderful about you. So if I were Michael, I would write down what I said to him today. You're going to write down every wonderful thing that is said about you and your voice. From your teacher, from your friends, from yourself. I feel like I've never sung better than I did this afternoon. Because there's going to be a day when you feel really crappy about your singing and really depressed in general about where your career is. And you're going to open this yes book and you're going to read page after page after page of true affirmations. And I think we all need something like that to keep us going, because it's not always easy. But you're all here. You've all been chosen for this program because you have talent and you have ability. You have beautiful voices. So let this be the start of your yes book. Okay? So, devieni non tardar.
Giunse il momento che godrò senza affanno in braccio e l'idol mio. Timidi cuori usciti dal mio petto a turbar non venite nel mio diletto. Come barchi all'amoroso fuoco, l'umanità dell'acqua alla terra, il ciel risponda, come la notte, i furti miei seconda. Vieni non tardar, o gioia bella, vieni ave amore per goder ta pena, finché non splendi in ciel notturna face. Finché l'aria in cor bruna e il mondo taci. Qui mormora il ruscello, qui scherza l'ara, che col dolci sussurro il cori starà. Qui ritana e fiorita l'erba è fresca. Ai piaci qui d'amor, qui tutto è desca. Vieni, ben mio, tra questi pianti ascose,
Thank you. Very nice. What would you give yourself in terms of a number?
I'd say 5, maybe.
5? Okay. What made it a 5 and not higher?
I think that I could have been a bit more legato at certain points.
Uh-huh.
I think sometimes I didn't shimmer as much
Mhm.
where I wanted to, and
Uh-huh.
then maybe I was a bit closed more than I wanted to at certain points.
Okay.
So that the leaps were a bit more harsh when I went up versus floating up, I'd say.
So, what I would do for that is make sure I spend plenty of time on a vowel. Okay? When you all practice, my guess is you all practice too many things at once. Give yourself the luxury of singing this beautiful aria on just one vowel. So all you have to do is focus on your sound and doing all the things that you want. Let me hear you begin it. What's your best vowel?
Probably ooh.
I love that.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to think most singers' best vowels are the more closed vowels rather than ah. So let's start. Just sing it a cappella and just make it very beautiful. Do you have a piano or do you still have the C in your head?
Oh, I don't have the C in my head.
I can give it to you.
Okay, that'd be great.
Good. Now let's get rid of the n and just make it on ooh. Okay. Now I notice that you pulse even when it's on ooh, and that's not going to help you.
Okay.
So let's try to make it as legato as possible. Do not start on the first C and do not breathe or pulse or break.
Okay.
Just make it beautiful from the beginning to the end on this beautiful ooh. You hear, you go
yeah.
ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. So what you have there is an eighth note and a quarter note. So when you sing it on ooh, it's a dotted quarter note.
Okay.
Ooh. Let's see. Ooh. Okay. Yeah. 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 You are a perfect example of somebody who wants to do it all right now. And I appreciate and love that enthusiasm, but you need to slow it down a little bit.
Okay.
So for me, when I practice and when I work with singers and give them practice points, it's always like little bitty tapas. We don't have a huge chunk of nachos here. We have little tapas portions so that everything is about 2 to 4 measures. And that's all. And you practice that just like that. It took us 3 or 4 times before you got it exactly right.
Yeah.
Next thing is to repeat it 4 or 5 times. Then record it and listen to it and go, oh, that was really beautiful. Or, I thought I was totally legato, but I still am pulsing here or there. Okay? So that's a very, very important thing. And to go back to our arpeggio work, look at that. 5 5 1 3 5 1. In the first two measures, it's all about F major. And so this is another great thing to practice your arpeggios on. I would encourage you to break this up into 2 to 3 measure phrases, just kind of where they divide themselves naturally. And work on that with just this, because there needs to be this consistency of sound. Once you're used to doing this on the ooh, you'll get much more comfortable singing the words. And I don't expect you to ignore the words. After you've spent 5 minutes on oo for this, you're going to say, Devieni non tardare, oh gioia bella. Devieni non tardare, oh gioia bella. You're going to give yourself attitudes. I wish I had gotten stock in 3x5 cards because those are so helpful. You write your texts on them one phrase at a time, but you also should in my opinion, have 300 to 500 cards that have attitudes on them. Joyful, sad, cheeky, whatever it is. So that you can pull these cards and don't have to come up with the same, you don't have to come up with things that after a while you come up with the same 5 things. But you can practice this if you're sincere. Devieni non tardare, gioia bella. If you're tongue in cheek, Devieni non tardare, gioia bella. It's different, but you're practicing the words. And then you practice. So let me hear you say the sentence that we just did.
Devieni non tardare, gioia bella.
I want you to say it as if you're begging.
Devieni non tardare, gioia bella.
Better. You do it better with an attitude. And I hope everybody can see that. It's not that she can't do it. It's just that we all do better when we have an attitude. So I would encourage you to go through that. You have to be very careful because sometimes you have some Americanitis going on too with your Italian, like notte. Too much T in that. Notte, notte. If I were in Italian, I could say no. I could walk away. I can come back and go te. And there would be no explosion behind my teeth. Notte, notte. I'm still hearing te.
Notte.
No.
Notte.
No. I want you to go no.
No.
Te.
Te.
Better. I still hear the te. So that's a homework thing. So 100 times before you go to bed, say no, they, and make it more of a they rather than a te, even though it's too far in the wrong direction. But your te is too American. No te, no te, no te, no te, no te. Okay.
Okay.
Also, you when you speak it. And we're going to go back to the rest in a minute. You tend to have what I call last syllable itis, where you love to linger. And when you said, Vieni non tardare, gioia bella, you really extended that la. And it's bella, bella, bella. In the recit, giunse al fine il momento che godrò senza affanno in braccio all'idol mio. That's a lot of words. And what happens is when people try to practice them, they tend to only get so far before there's a trip up. So I believe in going from the middle of it somewhere. So when you look at the first phrase, where is the most difficult place in that phrase that I just said for you to wrap your tongue around?
Alidol mio.
Okay, yeah. And it's because of the L. It's the American L. Our American L comes from the back of our mouth, on the back of our tongue, and we love the L. So everybody go, look, 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 and feel where that look comes from. Now, with your tongue just on your teeth, la 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 la. It's different than look. La 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 la. If I try to do the la 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 with the look, I swallow my tongue. So you have to know where you don't want to go, which is the look, to where you do want to go. Ali, 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 Ali. Say, just repeat after me, and as I shape shift, you follow me. Ali, Ali, Ali.
Ali, Ali, Ali,
Ali, alido, ido, 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 ido.
Lido, Lido,
Alido, alido,
Alido,
alido.
Alido, Alido, Alido.
Alida. Touch your teeth with your finger. Alido, alido. And
Lido,
feel your tongue touch your teeth.
Alido,
Alido, alido, alido.
Alido, Alido,
Yeah, do
Alido,
you hear your
Alido.
do? Do. Listen to me for a minute. Alido. I don't go duh. Alido, alido.
Alido, Alido,
Yeah.
Alido.
You have a pencil?
No, I don't.
Use your
Or
finger.
wait, I do.
Okay. Put your pencil in your mouth.
Okay.
Alido mio.
Alido, Alido,
There you go. Alido mio.
Alido,
Braccio mio.
Alido. Wait, where? A braccio
Braccio.
lido mio.
In braccio mio.
Braccio lido mio.
Yeah. So when you stick a pencil in your mouth, what it does is prevents you from sticking your consonants too far back and doing all the wrong American things that we do so well because it's our native, we've spoken English all of our lives for those of us who are native English speakers. And we've got to quickly pretend like we're Italian. So that's just a trick to help to pull everything into the right place. But the way we worked on that ali, 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 ido, 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 alido, aido, aido, helps 2 or 3 syllables at a time. And then go dol mio, dol mio, dol mio, in braccio, in braccio, in braccio. Okay? And in this is, the entire Susanna aria is tough. You come in at the last minute and sing the most important aria of this for Susanna in the whole piece. And the thing that I love about this is how beautiful the language is. And so I would love for you to be pickier about open and closed vowels. You tend to be too open in too many places. Amore is closed. Foco is open. Now, I always exaggerate as a coach so that you can hear the difference. De vieni are both open. Non tardar, oh gioia bella. Those are all open. Vieni ove amore per goder t'appella. So it's and also you've got the ick going on in finke. Okay? Yeah. So go back through your IPA and go, oh yes, and pull a coach thing and make the O's super closed. Practice them. Secondo, seconda, seconda, seconda. So that you really know that that's a closed vowel. I furti miei. Okay? You're not going to sing them quite so far apart as I'm doing them, but it's important to know where they are. Also, when you are working with an accompaniment that is video, I encourage you to tether more to it because you are not with the piano as often as I would have liked you to be. So if you can even just look a little bit more so that it's really clear for you. The other thing to be a little careful of is the diphthongs. We don't have diphthongs in Italian, but you presented me with some. So be very careful with the language and, look at where the language lives in your mouth. I'm going to have you all do something with me so that you can feel where this is in your mouth. Everybody repeat after me. Gute Nacht.
Gute Nacht.
Good night.
Good night.
Buonanotte.
Buonanotte.
Bonne nuit.
Bonne nuit.
Yeah, very good. Did you notice where they were in your mouth?
But last one I felt very forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of fan forward.
Yeah.
And so Gute Nacht for me is the furthest back in my, good night is next. Buona notte is right behind my teeth. And bonne nuit feels like it's in front of my nose.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where these languages live. And I encourage you to go online. This is, again, a great thing with YouTube, and do Italian children's story read out loud. And hear how an Italian speaks in Italian. And if you're lucky, you'll find something that's translated and you can follow along, or at least has the Italian out there. And see where it is. Watch any movie in the original language if it's a foreign film. And use the subtitles so you know what's going on. But the way they speak, it's different than the way we speak. And you need to find a way to internalize that and see that, wow, I hear a language, and even if you don't know exactly what it is, it sounds French, or it sounds Italian, or it sounds German, or it sounds Russian, or it sounds Spanish. We need to get used to those in our ear, because they are not, we may still have our one American mouth, but we need to be able to shape shift our mouth to the whatever language we are needing to accommodate. Okay? So, clear some of the exercises to do on this?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Just a few other things before we get to the top number one. No, we're at number 3, and the top 10, we're at number 3, and it's commit 100%. Now, Nike says, just do it. I like that. Just do it. Commit. Don't wait to be perfect before you perform. If we waited to be perfect before we performed, our stages would be empty. Dare to just do it. And in just doing it, you are likely going to be extraordinary. Even when you mark, you need to be 100% with your energy and your intent. And if you are too tired to sing, and you still need to just do it, I need to sing my whole recital today, but you can't, you're too tired, you can visualize your performance. This is not just, I'm going to think about my performance. This is about visualizing it, walking onto this performing space in the shoes and outfit that you're going to wear, hear the introduction of your first piece, sing the piece, decide, if it's an audition, it's going to be one thing. If it's a recital, it's another, because you may string 3 pieces together before applause. You're going to envision the entire thing exactly as it is. So if your jury is 10 minutes, this envisioning is going to be 10 minutes. If it's a recital that's 45 minutes, the exercise is going to be 45 minutes. Experience it fully in your mind. This is another way to practice. This is another way. And what will happen is, if there's something that you don't do right, your mind is going to catch it in the experience of envisioning it. And that's something for you to note and go, oh, I need to go back to that later on. Okay? The number 2 in the list is, do not cancel coachings or lessons. I mentioned this in our welcome meeting. Unless you have a fever or are throwing up, do not cancel. There's so much that can be done even if you can't sing. You can work on the language in a multitude of ways. You can work on understanding your story or your character or your time period. You can ask someone to clarify a musical or dramatic point. You can discuss how to practice. This is such a hot topic of mine. In fact, I'm in the process of writing a book on how to practice. I am 3/4 of the way finished. I never run out of things to work on with singers, whether they're singing or not singing. There's always something to be cracked open. The only exception to this rule is the hard and fast exception is do not sing sick in an audition. Ever, 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 my pew. Because you don't want them to think that that's your best singing if you're sick. And you don't want to say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cancel. I really wanted to sing for you, but I've been sick for 5 days. You don't want to do that. So if you have to cancel an audition because you're sick, call the company. Nobody answers, leave a detailed message. And then you email the company and leave a detailed message. So that even though they may be agitated because you're not in the room, when they get back home, they're going to get messages that say, oh, they tried to let us know. Do everything in your power to let them know that you made multiple attempts to reach them. But do not say, oh, I really just wanted to sing for you. You've wasted your time and you've wasted their time. If it's for a jury, you and your teacher have to figure that out. Everybody's going to have a different answer because every school is going to have a different situation. If you are really sick, you need to talk to your teacher. If you're sick and have a performance to do that evening, talk to your teacher, then talk to whoever's in charge of that performance. There are some situations that you have, it's not an easy decision. But when it comes to coaching, it's an easy decision. Don't cancel. Come even when you're tired because there's so much to do. And number one, what do you think the number one top tip is? Have fun. Do what you love and love what you do. It's about practice. It's about rehearsal. It's about performance. All three are necessary. All three are crucial. Have fun with all three. This is what we're about. If you're only about the performance, I have to tell you, 95% of your time is going to be not in performance. It's going to be in practice or rehearsal. So just about everybody I know this year who's gotten back into a rehearsal hall has said, oh my gosh, it feels so good to be back in the rehearsal hall. Have fun. We have 7 minutes. Before we have time for 1 or 2 questions, I want to thank the singers for this afternoon, for all of you here actually, but especially the singers who opened up so beautifully, who sang so beautifully, who accepted so beautifully, and who I'm really proud of. For this is the first masterclass and you just got out and did it. You did it. Just like Nike says, just do it. You just did it. So I'm super proud of you. I hope this gives everybody food for thought and a foundational understanding of what can happen, what should happen, what will happen as we begin Cooperative 2021. So are there any questions that you might have for me? Let's see. It's going to be hard for me to see everybody because it's on multiple screens. So just, if you have a question, just unmute and jump in. Nobody has any questions.
I have a question.
Okay.
Regarding the exercises that you told us about, particularly the whole step, half step ones, do you recommend that we do those in every part of our range, or
Yes.
if we're working a specific aria that requires it only in head voice, do that? Or
you need to practice it throughout every note you sing, from your lowest note to your highest note. And every day the note's going to change. And every day the vowel is going to change. So after a year, you'll have gone through every note and every vowel combination possible. Okay? When it gets to the arpeggios, if today is a really high note day, like G at the top of the staff, you likely are not going to be able to sing, 1 3 5 3 1, and certainly not 1 3 5 8. So you adapt. Same with the lowest parts of your voice. But you have to shift around every single day, a different, If you're a list maker, you'll really enjoy this because make a list of all the vowels. And it's not just the 7 of Italian vowel sounds. Look at the French vowel songs, the E that is, or the all these other sounds. And it may be difficult, but boy, you're going to be an expert on every note, on every vowel that you sing in any repertoire. And then really just know your range, like what's your lowest note, what's your highest note, and whenever I ask singers, especially in an audition, what's your highest note? Well, my highest note that I sing in public is a D, but I've vocalized up to the G. That's important to know. So that's a great question, Elena. Thank you. Anybody else? So there are 3 other exercises that I don't have time for, but one of them that I will give you right now. Oh, this is tough in 3 minutes. This is the one that's, I think, one of them. Well, they're all important, or I wouldn't have made them into this thing. You choose your note, you choose your vowel, and this is a messa di voce kind of thing, where you start pianissimo, and over the course of 3 beats, at about 60, you crescendo from pianissimo to forte, and then over 3 beats, you decrescendo. So it might look like this. 1, 2. Oh. Then I do 4 and 4. Then 5 and 5, 6 and 6, and you end up at 10 and 10. Now I can tell you your lowest and highest notes will never get to 10 and 10. I used to say in classes, if you ever get to a point where you can do 10 and 10 on every single note in your repertoire, I'll take you out to dinner anywhere you want to go. That's how confident I am that nobody can do 10 and 10 on their highest or lowest notes. But if those of you in the cooperative program get to that point, call me, even if you're 50. We'll see. But it's just, it gives you an exercise so that if you're singing Must the Winter Come So Soon, and you have that very long thing at the end, so soon, it's got this whole thing, and then you have to hold it for a million measures. It's actually only 12 beats, but it's a hard 12 beats. And if you've practiced this at 10 and 10, you're going to have the technique, the musical technique, to figure out how to do that. And in the exercises that I have, they're all things that are in all of your repertoire. I have a scales exercise, I have a trill exercise, and they're all super important because they all show up, with the exception of the trill. Not everybody has a trill, but most people do. It shows up in everything. Every music is about arpeggios, scales, half steps, whole steps, and crescendo, decrescendo. And so you work so hard on your technique, your vocal technique. I want to help you have musical technique to get you where you want to go. So on that note, I'm going to bid adieu. And I thank you all for a wonderful class. I appreciate your enthusiasm and your beautiful singing, and I'll see you tomorrow in class. Bye-bye.
Thank you.